The Black Room, written by Khadija Grant. Copyright 2024, all rights reserved. No part of this book may be reproduced or redistributed without express consent from the publisher. The Black Room, Chapter 2. Identify the puzzle pieces. I grew up very shy, reserved, and uninterested in the lives of any other human other than me and mine. I had a goal: focus on my studies, go to college, and make money. And so if you weren't trying to be an asset to that goal, I could have cared less about what you were doing and didn't take a chance on learning about who you were. As an adult, as an upcoming best-selling author, this posed a problem, a serious one. For people to get to know me, I had to get out of the house and put myself out there. I'd often battle with myself internally, but for years, I'd avoided people. How do you even communicate with those other humans? They don't understand me, and I don't understand them, so let's just keep it like that. Nice and comfy. Yeah, that didn't work. After writing my first book, The Influenced, started networking online. I joined groups on Facebook and Wattpad, a new writing app, and started talking to people there. It was cool and I was building a good network, but I needed to be outside. That was the one puzzle piece I felt was hindering me from the next level. So, one day, I said enough is enough. I'm going to face my fear. I'm about to start going to some events. I'm going to get out of the house and meet some new people. I went to the library, my favorite place at the time, snatched up one of their flyers filled with local events, and I started drawing circles around the events I was interested in. The flyer read, Entrepreneurship 101 Wednesday at 3 p.m. And just like that, I was outside. I went home, came up with a plan and a goal for the event, and when Wednesday came around, I was the first one sitting front row and center inside that hard scoop of a library chair. As I'm writing this, I swear I have two different personalities. There are times when I just do what needs to be done, and others when I shy away. They both have done well for me, so if you're sitting here thinking you can't get out and be bold, just know, I was literally easing the bold version of myself into situations until the shyness started to fade away. As I'm sitting in the front row, I'm watching this man speak with such conviction and passion, but also hear the nerves in his voice as he tries shaking them away. He was just like me. He'd pushed himself. I sat there and thought, if he can do it, so can I. I'll never forget his name, Lawrence Wagner. He was a tall, dark man who spoke with a slight lisp. I took my notes, learned a thing or two, and yes, you've guessed it. I had my book, The Influenced, in hand to start the conversation as soon as he was done. After he talked, I stood around a bit waiting for the crowd smothering him to thin out, and then I approached him. Hello, my name is Khadija. I heard you said you were from Cleveland. What part? I asked. East Cleveland. No way, I said, lighting up because I'd found a common ground. What high school did you go to? I asked, knowing damn well there was only one, but I wanted to hear the sweet word roll off his tongue. Shaw, he said, smiling down at me, his voice heightening as we shared a connection. I'm in, my inner voice rejoiced before he could even say the word. Me too. Now mind you, I was all the way in Colorado, so meeting someone from my hometown, Cleveland, Ohio, was a stretch. I praised him on his class and went over some of the things I'd learned from him. I then pulled out my book. Mind you, this is a short talk, maybe 3 minutes, and I told him my goal as far as selling it. A woman jumped in. I'm leaving, but before I go, can we have coffee one day? She'd butted in, tapping him away from our conversation. Why? He said in a very direct tone. Why do you want to meet? I have some questions to ask you about some things you said tonight. I don't do coffee for that. I'm sorry. I was taken back by how direct he was. That's how I wanted to be in business. I wanted to know what I wanted. I wanted to be able to break out of my shyness and take control of my entrepreneurial journey. The lady nodded okay and left. At that point, I'm like, forget the book, bro. Teach me how to be like you. How did you learn how to talk to people with such confidence? Like, how do you get up the nerve to teach a class? I just practice. He started to feel my energy, my hunger to learn, plus he was in a rush. This man wasn't wasting any time with anybody. There is a big networking event with El Pomar Foundation, one of the most prestigious nonprofits in the country. Do you want to go? I hesitated. He gave me the look. It's a look that successful people give you when presenting you an opportunity. It's like they are sizing you up to see how ready you are, how capable you are, and where your head is at. It's like you have a 3-second window to respond with the right tone, words, and body language. I smiled and said, "Yeah." "Okay, give me your number and I'll text you all the details." Just the thought of walking into a room full of people made my nerves run wild. We said our goodbyes, nice to meet yous, and I was off headed to my car with my head down like, damn, what the fuck did I just get myself into? I had a choice. I could ignore his calls, or I could chalk up my feelings and go to the event. One thing for sure, if I didn't answer that call, I knew he would never call me again. So, a few days later, I got my nerves under control, put on that dress, and met him at the event. The event was as luxurious as it gets. I'm talking about billion-dollar conversations. It was at some expensive hotel filled with what seemed like Fortune 500 CEOs, professors, governors, and bankers. Yeah, he and I were one of the only black people there. I saw him in the middle of the floor, standing, holding hors d'oeuvres in one hand and shaking the hand of a man in the other. I walked up close to him, lingering around an empty table until he'd finished. I overheard Lawrence say, "Yes, we have revised the proposal based on your suggestions." Then, my nosy ass heard the other man say, "Sure. The funding has reached $3.7 million. We would love for your organization to be sponsored." I was like Chris Tucker in that Rush Hour hour, $1 million. And that's when I knew. This was no ordinary event, and these were not ordinary people. These people had money, lots of money. These people were organized and on a mission. This was levels ahead of what I was used to. Even Lawrence talked differently and moved differently as his energy met whomever he was talking with. They had finished talking, so I went up to him and said, "Hi." He looked at me and said, "Hey," with a big smile. "You made it." I smiled, feeling like I'd gained a friend. He took his hand and waved it in the air. "Start talking to people." And then his ass turned around and was gone. He left me there, standing in the middle of the floor looking lost and bewildered. I had my little Walmart purse swinging it, sweating and listening to echoed chatter. It was wild. It was hard to learn who to talk to and what to say. I didn't see Lawrence again until days later when we met for coffee. That night changed it all for me. That was when I learned the power of a strong mentor. That was when I learned that in order to master something, you had to start no matter how afraid you were. That one night opened up so many doors for me, from getting into the newspaper, being selected as an ambassador for the nonprofit, and getting scholarships to leadership programs. It was truly unimaginable what networking can do for you, who you'll meet, and what you'll learn. This was before meeting CJ. This was before meeting Derek. This was the practice I needed to build a system that would get me into doors and get me opportunities I would never have dreamed of. Networking was my first piece of the puzzle. Sure, writing came naturally and I was great at it. But the skill of networking got me into any door I wanted to be in. Identify your first puzzle piece. Wherever you are in learning the skills you need to learn, you just have to start. Start with the thing you fear the most, and then run with it. Nothing is built overnight, and I believe that is the misconception that is holding so many people back. If they don't master it in a month, it's a dud. No, keep throwing shit up against the wall until something sticks, because eventually, something is going to stick. As for Derek, the skill that took him to the next level was sales. First, he started off selling in person, and then he started hustling online. I remember watching his first YouTube series. He would make a video selling the latest Jordans or special edition shoes, but you could never see his face. All you could see was a hand, a shoe, and hear a bit of nervousness in his voice. This was his start. This was his first push into doing something that felt uncomfortable until he mastered it. He then moved from behind the camera to the front. And I'm not talking about him sitting down behind a chair, somewhere with a ring light, but simply holding his phone a few inches from the camera and talking straight into it as if he had no fear in the world. He went from selling shoes online to selling $500 event tickets in major cities around the country. He didn't go all out and rent a hall from a bougie hotel. He didn't hire some expensive event planner or drive up in some Bentley. He booked a simple space in the heart of the city where the common people could meet, a bookstore, a club, a mom-and-pop event hall, and he gathered everyone around and had a conversation. Wherever you are in learning the skills you need to learn, just start. Nothing is built overnight, and I believe that that is the misconception that is holding so many people back. If they don't master it in a month, it's a dud. No, don't do that. Stay focused and keep practicing. Throughout the next few chapters, I'm going to throw you some puzzle pieces. These will be puzzle pieces to the system that was created to build a $20 million empire. Pick up the ones that fit and work with them. Save others for later, but most importantly, create your own puzzle pieces and prioritize them accordingly. Puzzle piece. Do lives in the black room. One of the things that was done daily, if not multiple times a day, was going live in the black room. Most people don't understand that your audience truly wants to see your face. They don't want you to just pop in and say hi. They want you on lives long enough to hit your flow state so they can feed off of it. Nowadays, most people who go live do it with all of the lights, camera sets, and AI background. But really, people want to just connect with you, your lifestyle. They come to see your authenticity because a lot of them can't find their own. They also come for community. Believe it or not, people who get on your live on a regular basis will start to recognize each other either from your live or from other spaces and feel a certain connection. This helps build trust. They love to see that someone they know is vibing with the person they are vibing with, and it just confirms to them that they are in the right place. This helps build camaraderie that you can then funnel into an actual community. Going live feels good too. It liberates you. It's something that will tame that fear of messing up, because you're now in the game and can't overthink at that point. You just have to go with the flow. Going live was truly the single most challenging yet game-changing thing for me in the entrepreneurial world. It was one of those puzzle pieces I feared the most, but the one that gave me the momentum I'd never imagined. This journey of me going live all started when I joined Breathe University. Within the community of Breathe University, there was a moderator for the group. Her name was Nikki Saunders at This Is Nikki's. She was Eric Thomas's social media marketing manager, and she was, as Eric would call it, phenomenal. I mean, she'd taken his audience from a few 100,000 to millions in a matter of months, and when I learned about her, I was excited that she had started her own coaching session within Eric's community. She had a partner, Jose, at featuring_Jose, who was also a huge power player in his social media camp. Now, like I said, I wasn't playing around when it came to networking. Most people were in Eric Thomas's DMs and trying to ride that train, but for me, I like to network just a few steps ahead of where I am, and Nikki and Jose were the closest to that. One night, Nikki hosted this class about lives. I really didn't want to hear her lecture about my greatest fear, but I wasn't missing any of her classes, so I just said, fuck it. It is what it is, we're talking about lives today. At the end of the class, she challenged us. She said, I want y'all to go live every single day for the next 30 days. I was flabbergasted. Like what? Every day? I had played around with lives, but you know how motivation comes and goes. One day you're pumped up about doing something, and then the next, something happens. You read the wrong comment, you misinterpret someone's words as you are talking live and reading at the same time. And the next thing you know, you're back out the game. Tap the fuck out. That was me, but I was trying. And at the time, like I said, I knew the number one rule about mentors and networking. People see people who execute on the advice you give them. You can't want to be with a dangerous team when you can't even face your fears about the little things. How else will you stand out? So, that's what I did. I took on the challenge, and I killed it. Every morning I went on at exactly the same time. I propped my phone up on my ironing board, threw on some makeup, and then pressed that live button and started talking. I'd go on at 6 o'clock in the morning every morning, calling it morning vibes, and never knew what was going to come out of my mouth. I jumped on, and the people started to come. They loved my energy. They looked forward to hearing what I had to say, and because I didn't have a certain topic, I was just jumping on to talk about things I was going through. When I jumped on, I was always in my state. I was always genuine, and because I was live, I couldn't lie. I had to be who I said I was. And because I was telling stories, they all had to match up. So as long as I came on and told the truth, I was good. Days passed and then weeks passed, and I started to get used to it. I started to love it even. I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, I might as well sell my books, and that's what I started doing. This is the beauty of doing things from the heart and allowing things to just naturally happen. I was talking about whatever came to mind, and then, because I naturally started touching on experiences that were in my book, people began asking me for the book itself. They were telling me what they wanted. I invested in a bookshelf, bought a few knickknacks from the thrift store, and then staged my background. I invested in a cheap ring light, and before you knew it, I was a growing star. I knew I was a star when I was pulling some groceries out of my car one day. My back was turned away from the street. I heard a car drive past and then screech to a halt. When I looked up, this white woman jumped out of her car, literally as if she'd seen Rihanna, and threw her hands around me. "OMG," she said, "I can't believe you are my neighbor. I just can't believe it. Tom, do you know who this is? This is Khadijah." I was taken back mentally and physically. I couldn't believe this woman knew me. "I watch you every morning," she said excitedly. I was so surprised and it felt unreal. "And before you come for me, I said white person, because I honestly never thought white people would connect to my stories the way they did. I wrote my books for people who came up like me, in poverty, the hood, the racism, and I just didn't think they would connect with my story. And that's why it's important to not assume, but to just put yourself out there." That neighbor ended up being a huge part of my daughter's life, who at the time was around 8 years old. Lives make you real. Another time I was walking little Khadijah to her school. We were running late, so the parking lot was pretty empty. As I was walking down the sidewalk, this man just a few feet behind me, but walking at a casual pace, said, "I missed you today on your morning vibe." I looked back like, what? He was like, "Yeah, I watch you every morning." Yeah, that was when things started to get weird. But from that, I started to immediately gain not only followers, but a sense of status in the community around me as well as online. And because I was killing the challenge and making it my own, I developed a good relationship with Nikki, which helped me out in the long run. One day, I was browsing Facebook and got a notification from a man named Lawrence doing a live. He was one of the members of Breathe University, and within the community, we had this thing, whenever possible, we would jump on each other's lives, support each other, share, and comment. So, I jumped on his live, and he was hosting something called the 15-minute hot seat, I believe. It was when you jump on a live with him, and he asks you questions about yourself, your business, and gives you a chance to kick some knowledge. He was so energized, so hyped, he'd make any boring person seem like they had hella personality. I wasn't used to jumping on lives in the middle of the day, so I shied away from the idea and just stayed a spectator. This man saw my name rising on his live feed and called me out. "Khadijah, I see you. It's time for you to jump in the hot seat." He called me out so many times, I swear, I was like, really? So I jump on. He interviewed me, and from that one live alone, I gained about 100 followers. From that interview, I learned the power of partnering during lives and how sharing audiences, although it can seem like nothing, can be everything. I'm saying all of this to simply say, put yourself out there. Lives are not only good for putting yourself out there, but it's also good for getting to know who your real supporters are, who's staying on the entire time, who's asking questions, who's sharing. You will also get to learn what it is they want. The reason why I wrote The Blueprint, one of my most sought-after books, was because people kept asking me about how they could get started writing a book. How do I write so descriptively? How do I channel my passion? So, after getting so many requests, I created a mock-up of the book, created a shop, and started taking pre-orders. I then had something else to promote, and it was what they had wanted, so it was all good. I also had a handful of people who I could send the book to, who already loved me, who already rocked with me in my lives, who were willing to exchange a book for a review on Amazon. Another side note, you absolutely have to pay close attention to the needs of your audience. One thing that I learned by doing lives was that, because at the time I was into entrepreneurship, that's all I was following and all that was following me back. So, even though the people on my lives were supporting me by buying my books, what they really wanted to consume was nonfiction, self-help books. But I wasn't a self-help writer. I wrote memoirs. I wrote fiction for all ages, but nonfiction was just not something I wanted to write. For years, I would try to push my fiction onto an audience who didn't have time to read it. They were reading 48 Laws of Power and the Art of War. They wanted to know how they could make and flip money. Once I started to pay attention to my audience, I had three options. I could either start a new audience for just fiction writers, or I could start teaching writing as most entrepreneurs wanted to write books. The third option was to get into writing self-help books. But I wasn't about that life, LOL. Pay attention to your audience and align it to what you are passionate about. Lives will not only help you build community, but they will also help you build intellectual property and self-awareness. Because I would go on a live and just speak from my heart, I was able to hit a flow state and say things I probably wouldn't have said if I was thinking too hard. You can see at what point you get excited, when your voice heightens, what specific point triggered you, and even what triggered your audience. When did the conversation go right, left, or when did it die down? This is valuable insight. It's like journaling live, a live flow state, people buy flow state. Never forget that. Once you're done with that, you can take that raw content, transcribe it, and turn it into a book. Lives are so underrated, but that's because most people don't see the bigger picture. Nowadays, you can go live at the same time on multiple platforms using StreamYard. Your opportunities for growth are limitless. Have a purpose in mind and start going live. Puzzle piece. Dropping emails every day. It's funny because I'm talking about emails going live, posting daily, and it must seem so simple. I can already hear some people thinking, so yeah, that's it? That's the secret? Yep, that's it. It's that simple. Now, what's not so easy is being able to do this shit every day around the clock. What's not easy is being able to take the losses that come with trial and error, because sometimes one decision would cost us thousands of dollars. So the key to all of this is the fact that we could do this every single day for years at a time. When I said we didn't take a break, I meant it. We didn't take a break. Instead of stopping when the well went dry in the emails, we kept putting them out. We may have turned our attention more toward the lives or text messaging, but the foundation stayed the same. Consistency. With consistency, you'll learn more than any book or coach could ever teach you. You'll learn your way. You'll learn how to tweak this and add that. So, when you're reading these simple pointers, I want you to think deeper than the information, and more so on the consistency and the fact that we never swayed from the system. We might have had to switch the apps we used or the times we posted, but never did we allow a dry period, a customer complaint, or the fact that life be lifing to deter us from our routine. Now that we are heavy in the age of AI, and now that platforms and demand for content have changed, the system may not be the same, but the consistency of whatever makes up the working system has to always be there. Let's talk emails. A lot of people focused so much on Instagram, trying to master the ever-changing algorithm, concentrating solely on posts, while in the background, we were milking the hell out of email marketing. I'm talking about we would wake up to $5,000 just off of an email we sent out at 11 the night before, and then by lunchtime, the time our next automated email was sent out, we'd make another $3,000 or $4,000. Yes, a simple 10-minute email was yielding us at times $20,000 in a day. Now don't go spamming people and harassing people in your emails, but definitely respect the game. Now, when it came to emails, it was actually pretty easy. Derek would go live, I'd pull his hardest hitting shit, usually the most triggering, and I'd pull his verbiage from the live for the subject line, and maybe snatch some words off of his caption, and add to that our latest deal, and bam, the money would come rolling in. We covered all bases 100% of the time, so how could we lose? Now, let me tell you a little interesting story. I remember when I was first studying Derek's page, I actually frowned at it. I was like, damn. All you do is sell, sell, sell. I was so uncomfortable with it that I was going to say something to him about it. This was before I was on the team. This was before I'd even gotten to know his system. Then, when you go onto his website, he has all of these flashing lights and countdowns going, bringing your blood pressure up to 1,000 if you didn't buy the product right then and there. Now, at the time, Derek wasn't really telling the world how much he was making, so I was naive to it all. I'm like, you doing all of this for maybe a couple of $1,000s, that's insane. But again, I come from a humble background where you don't ask for the sale, you whisper it, you beat around the bush, and you take whatever couple of dollars you can get from your customers. On some, they want to just support you type shit. Well, Derek played the game just a little differently. I remember the day I was truly introduced to the game. It was before the board game, it was before the packs, it was when he was simply selling curriculums and his books. I had just made it to Atlanta, and I believe at the time I was doing emails. He called me up, Khadija. Yeah, I said. He was like, so, the goal each day is to make $3,000. Now, mind you, this was the earlier stages, so $3,000 in a day was so big to me that I could only wish I could see that type of money in even a month. My heart raced a bit as his words challenged my beliefs, but like a real soldier, I was like, fuck it. If you believe it, then maybe it can happen, so let's go. He laid out the campaign and outlined the blueprint. We were going to do the same exact thing we were doing before, but this time we were going to saturate the market so intentionally that it was guaranteed to make us lose followers. We would hit the emails harder. We would hit the text line harder, the posting, the lives. Everything was to be done in unison. The next day, we fell short 1,000. The next day after that, we hit our goal. The next day after that, we hit $4,000. And then, a few weeks later, our goal was to hit $5,000 a day consistently. We drew the line in the sand when it came to our followers. Either you were on this side, or you didn't exist. It wasn't about getting on people's nerves as much as it was weeding out the people who were just lurking from the people who were our ride or dies. And what I noticed is that the people who we were getting on their nerves with our nonstop emails, the ones who unsubscribed, weren't going to buy anything anyway, so that was less money we had to spend on marketing to them. Emails were so important, but as I was digging deeper into them, I realized that automation was even more powerful. So, I studied triggers. When a customer buys something, you can upsell them something else. When a customer subscribes, you can set up for them to trigger a coupon. Now, this was back in 2018, before there was a ManyChat or real hardcore text automation, so we were ahead of our time. When a customer buys one thing or gives us their email, we're emailing and following up 10 times over. People would unsubscribe, but we didn't care, and that's what was so magical about it. We didn't care if you felt like you saw us too much because that was the whole point. We wanted to corner you and pop up everywhere you turned. You know, like every other good marketer does. We wanted you to remember us and have us on your mind because we knew that the key to becoming successful and scaling was not new customers, but customers who've seen us 10 times and those who've purchased with us. That's who we wanted, and oftentimes who would end up spending hundreds and sometimes thousands on products within minutes of us dropping a new product. Don't stop experimenting with verbiage and different forms of content when it comes to creating your emails. Allow time and quantity to show you what's working and what's not. Get creative with your prompts. Maybe one day decide you're going to run a contest in your emails. Maybe one day you'll decide to do a free consultation for the first reply. Make interacting with you fun. Think outside the box. Make people feel like they are truly missing out if they don't open the email. And remember to create a schedule that works best for your audience. Your audience may not be up at 11 o'clock at night scrolling aimlessly. They might be stay-at-home moms tucking their children in bed at 8 and putting themselves to bed by 10. Emails were a game changer, and it still is. The competition is a lot thicker now with all of these apps and AI tools, but find your niche and dig deep. At the end of the day, people are humans, and they truly want to connect with other humans on a level that robots currently can't reach. Puzzle piece: creating community. It's more important now than ever to connect with your audience. Social media has changed the game. People are feeling more disconnected from society and themselves, and you can be the one who can get them back focused on what it is they want and need, and that's community. That's connection. That's relatability with other humans who share the same problems, experiences, and goals. There are so many ways to build your community, especially now. You can start with social media, but remember, the connection is becoming more and more difficult with these shorts and one-minute reels they are pushing. It's hard to connect with people and evoke emotion in that short period of time. There is also a lot of content being thrown at them. Everyone is hungry to get their attention and is taking more and more drastic measures to get it. So many people have bowed down to the algorithm and will change up their content, shorten it, make it more controversial and shocking than they naturally would to feed the algorithm what it needs, not knowing it's killing their authenticity. Here you are putting in hours of work to create 1-minute clips when at the end of the day you get 1 million likes and 2 people in your DM interested in what you have to sell. Make it make sense. Always think connection. If you remember, one of the things that hooked me to people from Eric Thomas and Derek to David Shands was that they had a portfolio of content I could binge on. Whether it was books, videos, or lives, I was able to immediately connect to them. All of these people also did live events. You were able to reach out and touch them, talk to them, and feel their energy in person. These are all things that work. These are all things that build a real connection that ends up building a solid community. Short-form content can catch your attention, but longer-form content will keep it and build a connection. So, when you are setting up your platforms, think about connection first. What is the quickest way to connect? What content will hit them the hardest relatability-wise, even if it goes against the algorithm? Should I start a YouTube channel or shoot a podcast and cut up the content into shorts? Should I do both? There are so many options out there. And this is another thing. So many people rely on social media to gather their target market for them. We've gotten so comfortable with sloppy seconds that it's not even funny. We spend so much time creating content for a specific audience that only 10%, if that, will ever get to see it. We're still banking on the fantasy of how social media initially worked, where you make a post, your post is sent out to all of your followers, and then they all gather on your page to like, comment, and share. Yeah, that's never going to happen again. The truth is, it's not your community anymore. Not only do you not own the data, the target market's name, phone number, and email, but you are also at the mercy of the ever-changing algorithm when it comes to them. Even showing your target market you still exist. I can't tell you how many people I used to follow that I miss, but can't find them, because the algorithm keeps feeding me what they think I want. Just because I spent a week binging content about working out doesn't mean I want you to change my feed to fitness influencers. 1 minute, your target market becomes your best friend on social media, and the next, they become lost in the hustle and bustle of infinite traffic to never be heard from or seen again. This is a huge problem. In the meantime, The creator is spending a ton of money and time trying to mold into the creator. It feels the audience needs going off of the data from their ever-changing insights. This only pulls them farther away from their own authenticity. You need your own community. The only answer to this problem is to build a community, and that's what we did. We always built a community around the product or movement we were pushing to keep the people together. We made sure we not only got your email and phone number, but we hosted Zoom calls to see your face. We wanted to hear your voice and connect with your story. It's like a funnel. We post some raw and authentic shit online. The person likes it. They follow. They buy the product. They join the community, finding camaraderie and support with like-minded people. We get them all on Zoom, so we're not just talking to pictures, but now real people, and we sell more products. This was one of the routines that made us over $300,000 a month off of membership fees alone. This is what helped us grow a tight ride-or-die community to where no matter where we went or what new idea we came up with, they would just follow. We added value, and we were able to get to know them on a much deeper level than on social media. And what we later learned was that people didn't tap into our community or even buy the products because they genuinely wanted to learn. They bought the products because they wanted a piece of Derek's energy. He'd given them just enough passion and raw authenticity, energy they couldn't find anywhere else or generate themselves, and they wanted more access. They also wanted my brain, my passion, and the energy I give when I'm telling them they need to get up and just get shit done. The accountability. They wanted to feel. They wanted a source they could tap into. It was a way for them to come alive, and for some of them, it was the only ounce of hope they could find. People are dead and are looking for a lifeline, and that's why you need to know yourself, so that you can give them something they've never felt. Your energy. The energy you can only get from within, from studying yourself. But yes, people can plug into it. If you can connect them to your source, they will do anything for it. Your power source must be strong, though. It must be attractive and something the people must have to feel good about themselves, to feel like they can go another day. And this may sound weird, but many times this is the reason why people join cults, why people join churches and gangs. They are not able to generate their own source, so they need someone else's to borrow. They can go to church on Sunday, get filled with the gift of the Holy Ghost, but by Tuesday, life done got them down again. And that is why they never miss Tuesday Bible study. Don't kill the messenger. I'm just speaking reality. People come because they are drawn to a leader, the real source of the community, and that's why as soon as Derek stopped showing up for classes, they no longer wanted to be a part of the community. They didn't feel connected. I might like to think that I could have carried those communities, but I couldn't, because he attracted his tribe with his source, and I added to it. But he was the main one. I have my own source. I attract my own tribe. So it didn't matter how famous of a person we would put on the call, from Dame Dash to David Banner. The community wanted Derek. They wanted to see him, meet him, talk to him, and many wanted to emulate him. But again, for the 10th time, this comes first with knowing who you are. He put himself on a pedestal before anyone else did. He made himself exclusive, special. It was an honor to be in his presence. It was an honor to be taught by him. He had no needs from anything outside of himself, and therefore you could feel it. People want what they can't have, and that's what he served. There is nothing too magical about this process, and yes, you can build your own community too. Tap into who you are and represent that consistently and unapologetically throughout everything you put out, from content to lives to photos and pictures, and you'll see. You'll attract your tribe. Just make sure you have a place to put them. Always respect yourself. Don't overindulge in trying to be people's friends. Stay valuable, stay mystical, and you'll get it. You'll build a community that will ride or die for you as soon as you learn to ride or die for yourself.